And it's about young boys that are either orphaned or their families can't afford to raise them.
Yeah.
And so they're living in, I guess, I wouldn't want to call it an orphanage per se, but a home for boys. And this young, sort of aspiring musician teacher comes, and he's got music in him that he wants to share with the world. And he ends up writing these songs and putting a choir together of the boys, and they sing his compositions. It's beautiful.
Right, and something that your 7-year-old daughter you mentioned really likes, right? So.
She does. She sings along to it, and then she'll go back to the iPod and replay her favorite song several million times in a row.
That's so sweet. And she's 7, so she must be in school then.
She is. Grade 2. Yeah.
Grade 2. Oh, that's such a nice age.
Yeah, very sweet.
Yeah, I have a daughter who's in grade 1, so she has a lot of friends in grade 2, so I really like the age too. You are an artist, you are a mother, and I know that many people who have a career, kind of work on how they do the work-life balance and how they sort of, I don't know how to say it, except that it takes a village sometimes when you have both family and career. When I was growing up, my family all lived under one roof until I was age 6. So I lived with my mother and father and sister and my maternal grandparents and my maternal great grandparents. So there were 8 of us in a house, and it was a village basically. And so my mom and dad were really busy, and it was really nice having family around. So I was going to ask you a bit about what your situation is like.
Yeah. Well, Ruthie and I have been living in a basement suite in Vancouver together, and for the last year. And very recently, I've become extremely busy with teaching workshops, private classes. I teach at a community center, and as well as 4 art shows that are up and running right now. And so for the last few weeks, Ruthie's actually been staying with my parents,
right?
Which I'm really grateful for. And they've just stepped up and are, basically grandma and grandpa, but playing mom and dad, and really pulling in there. And I really couldn't do what I'm doing right now without them and their support.
What a great team, And before that, you were on your own raising your daughter, right?
Yeah.
So that's I have so much respect for you just being able to do that and having the courage to do that, because I know it can be really hard. But thanks for sharing that with us. And does Ruthie do art too?
Of course.
Yes.
I think we're all artists innately. I mean, we're all here creating our lives.
Yeah.
But children just have less fear and negative mind chatter and bounds that adults tend to have. I mean, they don't ask you how to paint. They just grab the paints and go for it. I would say Ruthie is more versed than the regular child. That she'll walk into a studio and say, I'd like a palette knife, a palette, a rubber shaper, and I'll take a flat brush. And she's very well versed in the materials, and likes to help me on my paintings and come in and can get very involved. It's quite cool.
Wow. Well, that's great. And she must enjoy it very much too. It sounds like a lot of fun working together. You also, I was talking about your 2 books. Can you tell us a little bit more about each of those?
Sure. The Little Inspiration book it's been out for 11 years now. So it feels like kind of a little cobwebby in talking about it even. But that basically was a book where each chapter, which is very short, was an idea or concept that supported me in doing some pretty crazy things in my 20s. We were talking before the interview. I rode my bike around Iceland by myself for a summer.
Yeah.
I've also sailed as crew from Canada to Mexico on various sailboats. And so I would say a lot of the chapters in the Little Inspiration book really encapsulate qualities of someone that has the capacity within themselves to pursue dreams that otherwise people around you might say, well, you can't do that. It's scary, or you could get hurt, and still to be able to do it anyway.
Right. Well, so it's just do it kind of thing?
I think there's one chapter, I'm trying to remember the book, about fear, like feeling the fear and doing it anyway.
Right.
And it's the same, it applies very much to artists and creativity, and it's something that I bring into my workshops where, especially adults, are nervous about what they're going to paint, and it's just a matter of getting in there and doing it and moving past those beliefs.
Right. No, it's totally true. I've recently begun stone carving, and I have this sort of fear about chopping off too much, right? Yeah. And then it's just like, oh, you can't put it back, yeah. Right? And so it's just like I understand this fear now, because like I've never particularly felt in touch with my artistic side. I have a very technical background, like engineering and math, and so I haven't really explored that side of myself. So I really understand what you're saying about the fear, and I have to extrapolate so much from what you're saying about that just to what you were saying about your choices and parenting and things like that, because there's fear in doing the art, and then there's fear in being able to get the space in a way to do it, right? And it's just like so much, in a way, pressure, or so much courage that you need to be able to just do it, like you were saying. Not to use corporate slogans too often, but feeling the fear and doing it anyway. That's probably, I think that's a book title too, so I can't find my own words, but anyway, and about the other book then, which I love the title of.
That's Sand in My Bra is a collection of short stories. Ellen DeGeneres also has a short story in that book, and I have to say I'm very proud of the story in that book, and that's the story of when I sailed down the coast from Vancouver to San Francisco with Bob on his 42-foot Columbia sailboat, and Owen was the other crew, and Bob and Owen didn't get along at all. And for the sailors out there, the wind vane ended up breaking, so it means we didn't have... Are you a sailor?
I have sailed, yes.
Oh, great. So it's that device that enables you to not have to hold the tiller 24/7 through the night, and that broke, so we had to hold the tiller.
Oh, gosh.
And then the heater broke, and then the motor broke.
Wow. So
we ended up sailing into San Francisco underneath the Golden Gate Bridge with the spinnaker up, and the wind died just as we got into the harbor. And then to Bob's chagrin, because he's a very proud sailor, the Coast Guard towed us into Sausalito.
Oh, wow. What a tale.
Oh, it's just such a great story and such a great adventure, and I'm really proud of that short story.
Well, that's, I mean, it's amazing, because you're both a painter and a writer then, so... I mean, how would you compare the two? I mean, are they even comparable in the way, the process? Or
absolutely. I was just listening to a wonderful segment on YouTube by the author of Eat, Love, Pray, Liz Gilbert, and she's talking about the creative process and about how it applies to all of us. Whether we be stone carvers or painters or writers, and this idea of getting blocked and having the muse or not having the muse, or having successes and having failures, and really I think it's similar for all of us that have committed to living a creative life. You have ups, you have downs, you get stumped, you get over them. For me personally, I would say that in all these things, the process is a gift. Doing it is really the joy, more than selling a painting or even the end, publishing a book. It's almost, there's a sadness, like, oh, I'm done that project.
Yes.
There's something about having a project that it's so juicy and fun, and it keeps you getting out of bed in the morning. Like, oh, what's the next layer I'm going to paint, or what's the next chapter I'm going to write?
Right. No, that's a